The disciplines, Neṟis, that are essential in the spiritual aspirant. Part 3 by Sri Muruganar, translated and presented by Robert Butler.
கண்ணங் கருமால் கண் அமிழ்ந்து அடிநாய் சின்னம் சிறியேன் திருமந்திடவோ கண்ணம் கருமால் கண் அமிழ்ந்து அடிநாய் சின்னம் சிறியேன் தெருமந்திடவோ தன்னோ தனி மெய் பரதத்துவமா தன்னோ தனி மெய் பரதத்துவமாம் பெண்ணும் பெரியாய் அழினின் ஒளியே கண்ணம் கருமால்கள் அமிழ்ந்து அடிநாய் சின்னம் சிறியேன் தெருமந்திடவோ தன்னம் தனி மெய் பரதத்துவமாம் பெண்ணும் பெரியாய் அழினின் ஒளியே அழினின் ஒளியே.
As I wander in confusion, the lowest of the low, a mere dog at your feet, sunk in the depths of impenetrable darkness, may you, the greatest of the great, the one and only true and absolute reality, grant me your guiding light.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana. So we'll get started today with the 9th Neṟi from Muruganar's book. Anand, please go ahead.
அருளை மறைப்பது மருள். மருளாவது ஜீவபோதம் என்னும் மன உணர்வு. அது சகல கேவலம் என இரு திறப்படும். சகல கேவலம் நினைப்பு மறப்பு. அவ்விரண்டு மற்றதே சுத்தம் என்னும் துரிய நிலை. I'll read it again. அருளை மறைப்பது மருள். மருளாவது ஜீவபோதம் என்னும் மன உணர்வு. அது சகல கேவலம் என இரு திறப்படும். சகல கேவலம் நினைப்பு மறப்பு. அவ்விரண்டு மற்றதே சுத்தம் என்னும் துரிய நிலை.
Thank you. Robert, please. You may want to unmute yourself.
Delusion, maruḻ, is that which masks grace, aruḻ. Delusion is the mental awareness known as ego consciousness, consisting of the two states, sakalam, the waking and dream state, and kevalam, the deep sleep state, unconditioned consciousness, which is falsely identified by the jiva as unconsciousness. These equate to thinking and absence of thought, respectively. That which is free of these two is the pure state, suttam, shuddha in Sanskrit, which is known as turyam.
Thank you. So in this Neṛi, Sri Muruganar introduces a few concepts here. He says delusion is the mental awareness known as ego consciousness, consisting of the two states, sakalam and kevalam. So with regards to sakalam, Robert sent me a nice definition. It means manifold or divided. It refers to the waking and dream states in which the one awareness is divided and diversified into awareness of many things. On the other hand, with regards to kevalam, it means single, solitary, undivided, and refers to the dreamless sleep in which awareness remains as the only one indivisible whole. So Robert thought we'll bring up this conversation with Bhagavan on 26 December 1936. Please, Robert, you want to go on and read that?
Yes. We cannot remain unconscious. We, however, say that we were unconscious in our sleep because we refer to qualified consciousness. The world, the body, etc., are so embedded in us that this relative consciousness is taken to be the self. Does anyone say in his sleep that he is unconscious? He says so now. This is the state of relative consciousness. Therefore, he speaks of relative consciousness and not of abstract, that is to say, absolute consciousness. The real consciousness is beyond relative consciousness or unconsciousness.
Okay.
And I had some notes to read. Shall I read those now? Are we going
Yeah.
to...
Yeah, I just wanted to get a couple more terms here, but yeah, if you could go ahead and
No. Okay.
finish this. Okay. So in the last part of of what we read from the Neṟi, because I just wanted to mention, Neṟi 9 is so large. That's one of the reasons why we divided it into 3 parts. So we'll just look at the first part, second part, and third part, and so forth. So Muruganar goes on to say that which is free of these two, meaning the Sagalam and Kevalam, is the pure state, Shuddha, and which is also known as Turiyam. So with regards to the phrase Suddha, pure state, sort of the best definition we could come up, or we could see, was in Tirumandram by sage Tirumula. Robert, you want to read that, please?
Yes. Some say that reality is twofold, self, I, and other, he. But self and other are not different. Therefore, those established in the state of oneness do not think that these are two. The reality in which we exist as the self without the I is known as the pure state, Suttam. Tirumantaram, verse 2348.
Right. So, and then now, the final concept that, or the term that Sri Muruganar introduced is Turiya, on which Sri Bhagavan commented on 18th January 1939. Robert, please.
That is the state of the jnani. It is neither sleep nor waking, but intermediate between the two. There is the awareness of the waking state and the stillness of sleep. Go to the root of the thoughts and you reach the stillness of sleep, but you reach it in the full vigor of search, that is, with perfect awareness.
Right. And at this point, do you have, I'll let you, add any additional comments.
I just had a paragraph that I thought I would read out. In the param, we stress the importance of clearing doubts so that we can fully commit to the sadhana prescribed by Bhagavan. This clearing of doubts also includes the combating and destroying of entrenched ideas that we barely realize we have. One of these is that our existence alternates between consciousness and unconsciousness. These ideas are foisted upon us from an early age. Well, with a little careful analysis, we can reach the understanding that everything must exist in consciousness only, and indeed that only ultimately consciousness exists. And therefore, we actually alternate not between unconsciousness and consciousness, but between unconditioned consciousness as in deep sleep and conditioned ego consciousness as in the waking state. The sadhana then becomes one of translating this intellectual conviction into full realization of our true nature, following the practice explained to us by Sri Bhagavan.
Okay, thank you. Any questions so far? Okay. Now we'll move on to the second part of the same Neṟi. Anand, please.
ஜீவபோதம் சாமானிய திருஷ்டியில் உண்மையுடையதாக கருதப்படுதலை நோக்கி அகுதழிந்த சிவபோதம் என்னும் ஆத்ம ஞானம் ஒரோவிடத்தே சூனியம் என்றும் பாழ் என்றும் உரைக்கப்படும். I'll read it again. ஜீவபோதம் சாமானிய திருஷ்டியில் உண்மையுடையதாக கருதப்படுதலை நோக்கி அகுதழிந்த சிவபோதம் என்னும் ஆன்ம ஞானம் ஒரோவிடத்தே சூன்யம் என்றும் பாழ் என்றும் உரைக்கப்படும்.
From the ordinary perspective in which the ego consciousness is believed to be real, the knowledge of the self, the Shiva consciousness in which the former ego consciousness is annihilated, is described variously as emptiness or a void.
So, from the ordinary perspective in which the ego consciousness is believed to be real, the knowledge of the self, meaning the Siva consciousness, in which the former, that is the ego consciousness, is annihilated, is described as emptiness or void. Sri Bhagavan stresses this, and we will come to that later, and we'll just finish up the third part also. Anand, please.
நள்ளிருளில் நட்டம் பயின்றாடு நாசனே, இருளிடத்து உன்னை சிக்கன பிடித்தேன் என்றார் போன்ற ஆன்றோர் வாக்குகளால் அறிக. நள்ளிருளுள் நட்டம் பயின்றாடு நாதனே, இருளிடத்து உன்னை சிக்கன பிடித்தேன் என்றார் போன்ற ஆன்றோர் வாக்குகளால் அறிக.
Yeah.
This idea is expressed in the compositions of the great ones in such statements as, Lord, you who in deepest darkness perform your cosmic dance, and in the darkness I grasped you and held you tight. These are quotes from Manikavachago's Shiva Puranam 189 and Pudita Patta 116.
Pretty famous, aren't they? So we hear that all the time. And it occurs in Ilayaraja's composition of Tiruvasham also, these two lines. Nalliril nattapainradum nadane and ilidathunai chikkana pidithen. So if you remember, in the second part, basically Sri Muruganar said, when the scriptures refer to the words void, etc., they really are referring to the supreme state. And Bhagavan also confirms this on 18th January 1937. Bhagavan states, the word sunya, void or blank, adisunya, that is beyond sunya, and mahasunya, or immense void, all mean the same. That is the real being only. And Robert has a comment on it. I'll let him take over here. Robert, please.
Refer here to Urdu Nathpadu, verse 12, in which Sri Ramana warns against the tendency of people to assume that the self, since it transcends the world of senses and the resultant phenomena, must be essentially empty or void in nature, whereas in reality the opposite is the case. It is the infinite potential which makes all universes possible and yet is untouched by them.
So if you, because most people interpret void as just phenomenally nothing, and Bhagavan wants to make sure that that's not it. So this is a very practical tip, like when you, and there is a conversation that actually happened, which was recorded on 21st July 1946, where a devotee asked Bhagavan, when I reached a stage where there is a vacuum or void, sorry, when I meditate, I reach a stage where there is a vacuum or void, how should I proceed from there? To which Bhagavan replied,
in all books on Vedanta, you will find this question of a void or of nothing being left raised by the disciple and answered by the guru. It is the mind that sees objects and has experiences and that finds a void when it ceases to see and experience. But that is not you. You are the constant illumination that lights up both the experiences and the void. And here Kumar left out a sentence which I think we can actually put in. It is like a theatre light that enables you to see the theatre, the actors and the play while the play is going on, but also remains a light and enables you to say that there is no play or when it is all finished. In other
Right,
words,
you mentioned that. Yeah, yeah.
Self will be there whether there is phenomenal awareness or not. So the fear of the void is something that arises when we fail to trust in Bhagavan, that, you know, we fail to
Right.
embrace our own reality, and we still try to grasp it outwardly, and then we find the void.
Right.
There were a couple of other endnotes.
Other thoughts too, right? Yeah, let me go. I'll let you go ahead and finish that before we open up for questions. So that is this comment, and sorry, this is actually this words from Sage Arunagirinatha. Anant, you want to read the Tamil real quick?
Yeah. முருகன் தனிவேல் முனி நம் குரு என்று அருள் கொண்டு அறியார் அறியும் தரமோ உரு அன்று அரு அன்று உளதன்று இலதன்று இருள் அன்று ஒளி அன்று என நின்றதுவே. முருகன் தனிவேல் முனி நம் குரு என்று அருள் கொண்டு அறியார் அறியும் தரமோ உரு அன்று அரு அன்று உளதன்று இலதன்று இருள் அன்று ஒளி அன்று என நின்றதுவே.
It's a play of words. Robert, can you please read the English translation, and then I'll let you go ahead with your comments.
O Murugan, sage of the matchless spear, for those who do not hail you as Guru and gain your grace, what chance of true knowledge can there be? Neither with form nor without, neither being nor non-being, neither light nor dark. All that is, you are. Kandaranabudi, verse 13.
Do you want to explain there may be some here who may not know who Murugan is?
Murugan is a god who dates from before the time of the Aryan invasion in the south, and the major god of the Tamil and South Indian people. But when the Aryans came and settled in the south, he became associated with Subramanya, Shiva's son. So Murugan then became equated with the divine family of Shiva, Parvati, Ganesh, and Skanda, Subramanian, Murugan. So he became integrated into the Vedantic scheme of things.
So the second son of Muruga, that's how the tradition goes, right? I'm sorry, second son of Lord Shiva. Right. Okay, I'll let you, I know you have a lot of comments here. Please go ahead, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Just a couple.
Yeah.
First of all, I found a verse on a similar subject by Muruganar in Sri Guru Ramana Prasadam, verse 595, which I thought was quite apt here. It says, know that the glorious feet which lie beyond the realm of thought are perceived differently according to the minds that reflect upon them. To those who affirm their reality, they are the light of the eternal, and to those who deny it, they are the dark void of nothingness. The dark void of nothingness, I wrote about that term. The state referred to the state referred to in quotes such as this is often referred to in Christian mysticism as the dark night of the soul, the stage when all phenomena of all kinds have been seen to be and have become unreal. There is a sense of a meaningless void, a dark nothingness. There can also be the sensation that one's very existence is an impossibility, that one cannot be real in any sense, and that therefore one should not exist. This is because the ego mind is still not being eradicated and is still trying to grasp in some way that which paradoxically it has become convinced is unreal. So we're still holding on, as it were, to the void. Once we've got rid of the phenomenal world, we're still trying to see that nothingness that that used to be the world that we saw. Mm-hmm. So we still haven't dropped the mind. This is exemplified in a quote from Oliver Lodicum that I shall read out. It said, even the Advaitins, who assert that all they know objectively is false, cannot escape being trapped in an empty void. Like them, you will be destined to repeated births and deaths. However, having experienced the loss of your ego consciousness and the bliss that arises thereafter, if you transcend even these, birth and death will end for you. And the comment on that is the danger, even for the Advaitin, is that having realized the essential emptiness of all phenomena, if he does not then eradicate the consciousness that formerly perceived the world and now perceives an empty void, he will remain trapped in that empty void, unable to grasp the dynamic reality of the non-dual self. And that's the end of the comment.
So when we are practicing, we're not supposed to stop at that void sensation. You just, you have to, so our focus should be on the awareness. It's the fullness of awareness. So at this point, I will stop and open it up for any questions or comments, because there is actually a lot of practical tips here. So anyone has any questions, please go ahead.
I definitely have a comment. I think this the discussion of on shunya is always a very fascinating kind of topic, because as you said, there's a lot of kind of confusion in terms of people come at it from one of two ways, positivistic, kind of like, is it purna, is it fullness, or is it nothing, which is, I think, there's like the Shunyavada school of Buddhism. And, the very famous philosopher Nagarjuna, who was kind of, the proponent of the school, was very famous for defeating a lot of other, Nyaya philosophers and all these other guys, kind of saying everything is emptiness in a way. But he eventually got caught up in the trap by kind of somebody asking him, who is it that experiences the emptiness? So whether you come at it saying it's something or it's nothing, this is, a trick of language. Is it an object? Is it a thing? So this is kind of, I think, a trap that people get caught in. But like you said, the important thing is not, the void itself and asking what is it. It's kind of, who is it there that makes it, that void observable?
Void.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anybody.
Exactly. So, and then that's why Bhagavan said, when you start the practice of Atma-vichara, you have to go past that void sense also. And he did make a comment somewhere, I believe in talks, that, even when the Buddhists refer to the concept of sunya, they really are, I think we saw one of those quotes earlier today. They really mean the self.
Yeah, ultimately, because everybody kept saying, no, he's talking about emptiness. That's what they're referring to. But they're like, you ask him, that's ultimately what they're pointing to.
Right.
But it's not just, it cannot be just nothing, right? Because
so there's, exactly. So the word shunya led to so much misinterpretation downstream. And that is what we are trying to clarify. And Bhagavan clarified, and it's being stressed again today in Sri Muruganar's Neṟi, and then also all the different quotes that we saw from different scriptures. And that is such an important point. Yes, Robert, please.
There's a nice interview with Papaji on YouTube where he discusses the idea that the Buddha espoused emptiness, and therefore thousands of generations of Buddhists swapped phenomena for emptiness. But Buddha never did that at all. The idea of emptiness that people carried around them was yet more baggage created. Buddha did not make a comment on what it was. He left it the ineffable reality.
Right.
So the idea of emptiness is something that then became a vogue amongst Buddhists. But then if you read the Heart Sutra, form is emptiness, emptiness is form, it's telling you directly that it's non-dual. Emptiness is form, form is emptiness.
Right. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, it's interesting that the word shunya is applied also to zero. The zero. I don't know whether to call it as a number zero. So zero is
mathematics.
Yeah, the zero is also called, very interestingly, pujyam. Pujyam is one that is to be worshipped, right? Like we say Pujya Shri, somebody who should be worshipped. So it has both the connotations of being empty, shunya, and pujyam, which is purnam. So when you say zero, you close your fingers, and then it's one circle, endless and beginningless, purnam. So it's something that seems to be connected to our seeing the pujyam as empty, whereas it's really a combination, a neutralized point between plus infinity and minus infinity of numbers. So really it's very rich, but it could be perceived as nothing because of its having both of them at the same time. Like the darkness and light, all the pairs of opposite are all in the state of Purna Jnanam. You see them as just one. There is nothing besides it, so there's nothing to know.
Right. Any other comments?
Yeah, I had a comment.
Go ahead, please.
I think it's interesting that Ramana emphasized silence actually more than any. Well, in a lot of places and in a lot of ways. And it just occurs to me, and I've quoted this before, Ramana says you can't escape the bondage of concepts by substituting others in their place. It seems to me in some ways is that somebody who, starts talking about emptiness in some ways has just substituted one set of concepts with another. The sense that I get, and I could be mistaken, that what Ramana is really talking about is silence, or it's more accurate maybe to say neither empty nor not empty. It's kind of beyond that kind of conceptualization. I could be.
No, that's a good point. It's at some point, basically it's neither empty nor not empty. It's difficult to add any words to it. It's difficult to describe. That's a good way to put it.
And there is this quote that I sent you, and I've been trying to trace its veracity, but it sounds like Ramana. That somebody told me that somebody came to him and asked him, was he transmitting psychically or whatever because he remained silent so much? And Ramana's answer to him, he says, well, because there are no answers.
Right.
It sounded like him, and it really struck me. I found it a powerful kind of statement.
Yeah, I don't know where it occurs, but it's plausible that he made that comment, and that goes in. He is the silent guru. He is the offshoot of Dakshinamurti, who was the first primal silent guru. So it's possible that he made that comment.
Bhagavan gives another way of looking at this. He says that words are the great-grandchildren of silence, because from the silence of the self comes the ego, from the ego comes from the mind, and from the mind come words. Therefore, if words can be powerful, how powerful can the great-grandfather be?
Right. Good. Are there any other comments?
Yes, Kumar.
Johan, please. Yeah.
I think 2 sessions ago, we were, or maybe 2 or 3 sessions ago, satsangs ago, we were discussing the concept of I forgot the exact word. Was it spurna? Where the sudden brightness is clarity.
Clarity. Clarity is Purana. Yeah.
Purana. Yeah. Exactly. So and then I think last satsang, there were some devotees asking about exactly the same thing, that they went after meditating for a while, they reach a point where there's nothing. And then I think I also talked about being bored at that time. So I think from what I heard today is that emptiness is sort of the opposite of the Purna, where the clarity or brightness you can notice, you can also notice the emptiness. And Sri Ramana Maharshi is saying we should concentrate on the theater light, right? Where both of these are apparent, the consciousness itself. I mean, both of these are differentiated, or both of these are noticed.
No.
So the Purna is probably the exact opposite of the emptiness, but both are something that we can observe with our consciousness.
Yeah.
Is that what?
Yeah. So let me just reconcile that a little bit. So when we say void, the emptiness, it's a phenomenal emptiness. It's emptiness of all phenomena, all vishaya, or anything that's phenomenal. So that's not there, and that's why they are using the word emptiness or void. So it's a phenomenal void. On the other hand, because your true nature is consciousness itself. The true nature is consciousness itself. So basically, the more and more it gets clear, and that clarity is what is referred to as Purana. So that clarity is the clarity of your own nature. The clarity of your own fundamental, essential nature is what is referred to as Purana. And so the more and more you are aware of your own nature, the less and less you perceive the phenomena, right? So the less and less you perceive the phenomena. So that if you do, it's basically how you look at it. The less perception of phenomena is what is referred to as the sunya or phenomenal sunya, but that it's kind of misleading. So instead of, let's just even forget the word sunya. But what they are, what you want to concentrate on is your own consciousness, and then more and more it becomes clear, and that's what is referred to with the words Purana. And at some point, the little bit of ego that is even perceiving that clarity will be gone, and there won't even be anyone to even say, hey, it is clear. So even this Purana is gone. That's a self-realized state.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that Michael,
yeah.
Michael went into this in detail in that 2 weeks ago.
Exactly, right.
If the gentleman goes back and listens to that, when the Purana is like, it's gone. It's the freshness, but it's like Bhagavan says, does a man need to remind himself that he's a man all the time? Does a jnani have to? No, he doesn't, because the first realization, that's Purana, it's gone. You're in the clear.
Right.
But then you spend the rest of your life in that state. And Bhagavan didn't go around thinking, wow, I'm enlightened. He had reached that state and remained in it. This Purana is like the first dawning of it, if you like. And Michael goes into that in some detail. And it'd be worth anybody that is confused about Purana re-listening to, should be quite a section on that and within it.
Yeah. And that's, it used a nice word, the fresh dawning of your own state is what is referred to as Purana. And then finally, that also is gone, right? Because you are that. There is no for one to perceive that something is getting clear. So that piece is also gone.
Wow. Okay, so then, yeah, that was really great. But that makes me curious whether I'm getting this right. Chronologically, I think then, and on the path, what we're talking about today comes before Purana, because you have to reach the void, and then, I mean, you don't have to reach the void, but you may reach a void, and then the clarity of your own consciousness starts coming out.
I think you nailed that right. So you use the word may. You may or may not. So, I mean, I have never felt that so-called void, and but I have heard many people say that. So you may or may not feel the void, but if you do feel the void, that's not it. That's the message of today's session. So you just, you're supposed to go past it, just focus on your awareness.
Cool, great, thank you.
You're welcome. So I did see, because we're short of time, I did see one hand go up. I think it's probably Rabi. So could you just quickly make the comment before we close this session?
Sure,
Rabi?
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, so you alluded that there are practical implications of this Neṟi, of this understanding. So what are those? Can you briefly summarize how you see those practical implications?
So the practical implication, one of the, as I say, the practical implication, which we just discussed, is to go past that void. That's very important for those who feel like there is a void. Remember, like, a lot of many satsangs, Rabi, you might remember, a lot of our devotees say, hey, when I'm trying to practice, I just feel that's empty, this, I don't feel anything. Sometimes one time I may have had a comment, I'm just spaced out, things like that. So that's not it. You're supposed to, it's a fullness of your awareness, supposed to go past it. Good.
Namaskar.